Hello, friends. Welcome back to Saturday Evenings Posted Mostly Presents with me, your host, Trevor Stewart 1308. And we are here with the ASOC Prod Cat and the Peanut Gallery. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello to everybody in chat, all of you lurkers. Let's start today with our ad read. Today's pre-rolls brought to you by the Hidden Leaf, downtown Charlottesville, 105 West Main Street, on the Downtown Mall, above the bricks, Suite 200. A great place to find a great place to go with some great buds to get some great buds, bud? And the only thing better than their bud is their customer service. Also, they have the lowest prices in town, according to my own personally highly biased research, by which I mean I was very high when I did my personally biased research. Don't forget to check the website for times and events. The website is thehiddenleafcville.com, all one word. That's thehiddenleafcville.com, where you can find events such as Frosty Fridays, where you can also find our other two sponsors, Firehouse, where there's smoke, there's Firehouse, and Kush Gang, purveyor of fine edibles and drinkables. Disclaimer, today's show involves a lot of opinions. And as a result, I would like to say that all of the opinions expressed herein belong to the expresser of the opinion, the channel, and or our parent company, but do not necessarily belong to any of our sponsors, including Hidden Leaf, Firehouse, and Kush Gang. Now, that being said, I do want to get into what today's episode is about. And I want to bring attention to a debate that has been dividing this country. A debate that has been dangerously divisive in the United States these days, something that I don't think is getting talked about near enough, something that I feel like we absolutely have to cover. I don't think we talk enough about if we are fish or if fish don't exist.
So this is a discussion about fish and not why wizards are squishy?
No.
Well, they're squishy because they're fish.
Where does it say wizards? Why wizards are so squishy? From Wired, yes. Well, wizards are fish. Either that or fish don't exist. But also, I think wizards are squishy because it was part of a balance mechanic dating back to the original rules. If wizards weren't squishy, you ended up with a Spock kind of character who could do anything. You ended up with a plot device, not a character. They were incredibly overpowered in the original D&D systems. Once you got to a certain level, they were just they once a wizard gets fireball, all bets are off. All I'm saying.
I don't know. You can start betting on how many people dive through the fireball.
That is true.
Friendly fire isn't.
That's what they say about fireball. Friendly fire ain't. They also say, I don't care how big the room is. I said I cast fireball.
turn every small room into a kitchenette and just start cooking.
Right? Yeah, no, mages are incredibly uh, squishy. They had a lot of class limitations early on. For instance, the weapons they were allowed to use, their the experience points needed to level up were, I think, almost twice what anybody else needed.
Hmm.
So it took your wizard forever to get to the level where they could cast fireball.
Then you had the rogue.
So I recently watched a video about were rogues useless? Like in original D&D, rogues were, I don't know if they got that surprise attack backstab bonus in the original red and blue book Dungeons and Dragons. I don't think it was until second edition where they started coming into their own because sneak allowed them that backstab.
Was it second edition or advanced?
Advanced. I think it was advanced, actually. I don't think it was second edition.
But remember, almost every edition since then has actually been AD&D third or fourth or fifth.
Right. Even the Dungeons and Dragons, the new Dungeons and Dragons 5th, even though it's not advanced, it really runs off of the advanced D&D mechanics. Just very simplified advanced D&D mechanics.
I mean, it's significantly less simplified since elf is not a character class.
Right. It's taken the better parts of advanced Dungeons and Dragons and the more player friendly mechanics of Dungeons and Dragons and put them together. At least that's my feeling of fifth edition. And 3.5 made a great. I felt like was a good step in that direction as well. Um, I think Dungeons and Dragons has become something that is great for storytelling, a great vehicle for storytelling, a great vehicle for for the game. Um, I I think it's there are groups that like the dungeon crawl grind and math for fun kind of mentality that are not so much about the role playing but the rolling and playing. And
Okay.
I feel like there are still systems out there for people who enjoy that part of it. Um, I feel like Dungeons and Dragons is doing its best to, or had done its best to step back from that aspect of tabletop role playing, while
Hmm.
still maintaining that it is a combat system. It is designed for combat. It is designed for I mean, it's still designed for dungeon crawls. It's called
Hmm.
Dungeons and Dragons. You
True.
know. So
Hmm.
I do that's my opinions on D&D right now. I haven't seen the new edition, nor I've heard a lot about, and this is another debate that is, I think, dividing our nation needlessly. I've heard a lot about the the sort of digitalification,
Digitization.
digitalization. Yeah, thank you. That one of the experience, and digital integration of the experience, and there are parts of that idea that I like, and parts that I'm like, you know, like I like being able to have information at the click of a button where I don't have to flip through the pages to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, for random wandering around in a book, or for reading the book to get familiar with it, I would much rather have a hard copy. It is much harder for me to read from a screen than it is from a hard copy. Um,
There's there's that wonderful aspect. There's also any of the quote unquote flavor text. It's going to be skipped through on the digital version.
mm-hmm.
You're going to hyperlink directly to what you need,
Right,
try to find the answer, and then ignore the rest because it's no longer relevant. You've gotten what you needed.
right, uh, right. It you're not gonna. It's good for in-game play, in-game reference material, but it is not good for getting to know your system. Now,
I'm gonna
maybe
throw in
some
the monkey
people,
wrench to that.
maybe some people do just fine reading digital, and will do, and that's what they prefer, and that's cool. But there are a lot of us who
Well,
also do better with the manual, with the book, with the hard copy. So what were you gonna say?
I was going to throw in the monkey wrench of average age of player per chosen form of media.
I mean, there is that too.
Um,
There is that.
if you've got a current college student, a good chunk of their college texts are going to be digital, and they are having to learn to study and learn their material through the digital media. So, if you're a college student or someone growing up in that kind of environment where you have to, then you're going to be more comfortable getting the whole manual as a PDF or whatever and reading through it that way and learning your material that way.
That's fair. I get that. Um, what Dungeons and Dragons is doing is pushing everything digital. Pushing digital. Not not wanting to provide both digital and hard, but pushing hard for digital. And
Yes.
making digital cost the same as hard copy without getting a hard copy.
Which I object to.
Right. The other thing that Dungeons and Dragons has been doing, and not, Dungeons and Dragons parent company, has been towards pushing harder towards video games and away from the tabletop format.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of stuff around the licensing agreement that I'm not deeply educated on,
Mm,
even though I've tried.
mm.
I would
Vers-
have to disagree that they are pushing towards the video games as opposed to the tabletop. They are not actually a digital publisher in the video game space, so they have to deal with licenses and other things to try to get that done, which means they lose a portion of their cake. Now,
that's
they
fair.
are pushing towards a digital tabletop, which they have been attempting and revamping and attempting again for the past 20 years.
Okay. That I think
Actually, no,
that's
I think it's about 25 years, not
Mm.
more.
and it wouldn't just be a digital tabletop. It would be a very exclusive digital tabletop. I think is the argument there. The argument against them doing that. At least the player argument.
Well, yeah, because if you have taken if you've taken and made all the resources digital, so you have to have internet access and either a charged device or a power source to keep your device going.
There alone
And
is barrier for entry.
you've got your resources online, you've got your game table online with the dice that you're all supposed to be rolling, and you have to use the digital dice or it doesn't count, and you have to use the digital character sheet or it doesn't count.
Right.
Then
And
you know
I think that also starts really restricting homebrew.
Well, part of the
which they would
problem is
like.
they're also very much trying to go, like a lot of other digital formats, into a purely subscription service.
Yeah.
Which would also throw a further lock on that.
Microtransactions.
NFTs.
Ugh. Yeah, I could see how there'd be a lot of money to be made there. But that's
Mm-hmm.
also completely against the against the original sort of mindset of D&D players.
Yes.
And I know us. I know us. We will homebrew out another system and just make that work for us so that we don't have to be stuck with their version. And
Mm.
we will use other programs that offer us digital tabletops that are highly highly uh
Accessible.
individual
Accessible and adaptive.
accessible, adaptive, individualizable.
Mm.
There's a word that I'm looking for there that means that. Uh, but yeah, we will end up using other methods of getting to the same place and not using Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, not that people won't play Dungeons and Dragons, it's just that there will be enough other options available that Dungeons and Dragons will never be the only option, no matter how money grabbing it gets.
Mm.
I mean, that's kind of
Fair enough.
yeah. That's kind of why I'm not worried that it will actually go that direction, because GURPS.
Mm.
Because Palladium. You know? Because these other systems that. Because D20. Because the D20 system.
Which is their system no longer in publishing.
Huh?
Which is their system no longer in circulation.
Oh, which is the old system that is of D&D that's no longer in circulation?
Yeah,
Or do you,
D20 Modern is a Blizzards of the Coast D&D thing.
oh, but it's no longer in circulation. You can't get
Oh
it
no, it's
anymore.
been out of circulation for years.
Oh. Oh well. Oh well.
Which is
Well,
great because that means that you've got all of the hardcover books floating around out there somewhere.
I mean, yeah.
There is one benefit for them going to digital media as opposed to physical media.
Mm,
Means you can usually find a copy of it, still entirely legally, on various websites like Drive-Through RPG.
true. Which means that you can homebrew the system still, or not homebrew
Mhm.
the system, but you can independently play the system. Um, much like you would be able to with hardcovers.
Yes.
No, I mean, let's not pretend that D&D hasn't been kind of money grabbing since the 90s. Since second edition started putting out all of those uh all of those oh well, all of the class handbooks, all of the extra, oh gosh, what's the word that I'm looking for? All the extra stuff, all the extra additions, added add-ons to the game. Especially because the
Well,
cost of each one was still pretty high given the time.
what would be considered DLC if it was a video game?
Right.
With the same thought in mind, because that all started around about the same time. Is here's your video game that you've bought, and here's this new content that you can pay for as an update. Here's your base game that
Supplemental
you've been playing
material.
for years.
What was that? What was that, Peanut Gallery?
Supplemental material.
Supplemental
There you go.
material. Yes, supplements. Hey, Chris in the 386, what's up?
Upside it down.
Right? We are discussing the great social debates of our time. Um, starting with the D&D debates.
Mm-hmm.
If we're talking about video games, we're not. It's from Jay's 2 cents. We might come back to that. Although, we may also talk about console versus computer.
No debate there.
Huh? There's no debate there. I actually honestly don't have an opinion. I think that they are both valid ways of playing video games and don't have a feeling on the matter. However, I have a feeling you do, Peanut Gallery. Nintendo got a lock on how video games are made. What's your opinion?
PC is significantly more versatile and is the better platform. But many games are made specifically for consoles and do not translate well. So if you want to play those games, you need the console.
How
Now,
very. Huh?
in the age of the PS2 and a little bit into the PS3, as well as the GameCube and
Xbox.
Xbox, those were basically PCs that were made affordable and widely available. So programming for them ended up being very similar to doing PC. So a lot of things were a lot more easily ported. Nowadays, they are very much their own things, so porting things is a lot more difficult. But PC is still better.
It was very, very well politically put. But PC's still better.
I'm going to state my straight up opinion. I'm going to give facts to try to back up my opinion and admit where my opinion falls short, even though I still maintain my opinion.
It's almost like you know how to debate.
Comment.
All right. Now that we've warmed up now that we have warmed ourselves up, let's get on to the main divisive issue.
No more fishing for interaction.
Right? No more
No more.
trawling for trolls. Huh. Actually, no,
That's
that's
no
about
fun.
what I'm gonna start doing, because this is trawling for trolls. Are we fish, or do fish not really exist?
Well, fish are still significantly more well defined than trees.
And then we have mushrooms. What is a mushroom?
Well, fish existed before trees.
Oh.
Sharks existed before trees. If sharks existed before trees, fish existed before trees. I think fungi existed first.
Yes,
What exactly is a mushroom?
Being a fungi.
It's a fun guy. Hey, hey, hey. Thanks for the setup.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No worries.
So, what are the opinions? Did we go through that? Do you guys have a belief here? Do you?
Fish do exist. We are not fish.
Fish do
I like
exist.
sticks.
I do not like fish sticks. They taste wrong somehow.
Oh, come on. Fish sticks and custard.
Yeah. No. I like
No.
fish. I like good fish sticks.
I like a fish fillet.
And it's still a fish stick.
I disagree. Fish sticks.
If you take
Fish sticks are
instead of
fish sticks.
Fillet, if there's a fish fashion show, it's fish fillet.
Oh God.
I know. I cause pain everywhere I go.
How are you
Yep.
doing this when I'm not even at home?
You can't reach him with a pool noodle now. Ha ha!
No, I can't.
But she'll save it up, man.
Yeah, no, he already got a warning the other day of, I am hungry, I am lacking caffeine, blood sugar has dropped, and while mentally, I know what you said is not that egregious. If I remember this the next time my blood sugar is this low, you are getting payback.
All right. Before I let you
No,
get
we're not
yourself
right
in
at
more
all.
before I let you get yourself in more trouble, Peanut Gallery.
Oh, there's no letting.
This is wholly on his own part without supervision or requirement of any outside agency.
Exactly. No supervision. I'm not doing my job. Let's start the
Last I checked, we
video.
are supposed to be the chaos bringers.
I mean, let's start watching the video and see what there is to talk about.
Good luck.
And that was tough and waterproof. We had to invent an entirely new structural
Okay.
system seemingly
Why are we there?
from scratch. And this was
I
a
don't
huge... It is just so hard to be on land. Like, we're used to it, but it is kind of amazing that we are doing it. Out here, it's hot, it's bright, temperatures swing wildly, we're constantly being bombarded by the sun's radiation. Fish don't have to fight gravity to stay upright, they have buoyancy. They don't need reinforced skeletons or tight skin or lungs that won't dry out. Down where it's wetter, there are no freezing winds, no dry heat, no need to worry about desiccating into a crispy fish chip. Also, eggs are a huge deal for a lot of animals, and in the water you don't have to worry about them drying out. But land strips all of this away. We are here, we're used to it, we like it this way, but for life on land, in the air, under the sun, at first it was intolerably harsh. Moving from water to the land is like moving to an entirely different planet. It's a new world out here, a whole new world. That's a different movie. It is a harder, much harsher world, but that didn't stop some fish from getting ambitious. I have recently become obsessed with this. I think I could write a book about this. Unfortunately, I am already writing a book, and I do not have time, so you get a YouTube video instead. The things we needed to do to get onto land are so complex that sometimes I am amazed vertebrates
I feel like somebody has already written a book about this.
Probably.
ever did it. And look, it is important to note that for a very long time, we didn't do it. There were vertebrates for tens of millions of years before any of them left the water, and then for millions of years after that, they remained reliant on being near the ocean. The earliest land vertebrates, like this guy, 8 digits and lungs, but also gills, a weak rib cage, and limbs too flimsy to support its own weight on dry land. They were still basically aquatic, just with legs and lungs. And lungs, we're gonna get to this, but you would think lungs are a very big deal. It turns out not really. I mean, obviously you can't leave the water without lungs, but as we will see, that is not what held us back. Because these environments are so different, this was not a single leap from the sea to the soil. This was an awkward climb. Some lineages tried and failed, most didn't bother, and the transition only stuck. Like, we only really conquered land when we solved a whole bunch of problems in parallel. And we're not going to talk about all of them, but we are going to talk about some of them. Each one was its own survival puzzle, and each one came with its own trade-offs. So the question isn't how did fish make it onto land, it's how did they immediately not die trying. But this is the thing about evolution, they did die trying. They died so much. Evolution happens when organisms die a lot. That makes it possible for little advantages to win out. And after doing a bunch of research on this, you are going to be surprised by which thing I think was hardest, because it was definitely not the lungs, and it also wasn't the legs, though they were pretty hard, and that is where we're going to start. So, fish fingers, not those. Actual fingers and actual fish. Fish that are alive right now in the world,
like
in the
those
water,
fish
floating around,
fingers.
have fingers, kinda. They're called lobe-finned fish, and they're built differently from the ones you've probably kept in an aquarium or eaten for dinner. Instead of thin, flexible rays like trout or tuna, their fins are
Life insurance. Priced for you.
thick, fleshy stalks, little muscular limbs with
Fins are
robust
life
bones
insurance.
inside. And
Timing on that was amazing, wasn't it?
Hello, I didn't see that you're interested in fish. I would like to talk to you about your car insurance.
Okay.
Even fish have a problem with insurance commercials.
These bones are arranged
And
in
now-
a suspiciously familiar pattern. That's right. You can
What?
Now I have the urge to go watch The Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Why am I in the water? I'm in the water. Andy, I'm in the water.
Uh-huh.
It was actually way better than that. It was actually a pretty fun little movie.
Oh, yeah.
And Don Knotts did a great job. It is easy to make fun of Don Knotts for that voice.
Yes.
Because he really leaned into that in a lot of his work.
Yes, he did.
What I call the "why are there so many ostriches" voice, because Family Guy, because of the Family Guy joke. But
Mhm.
in Mr. Limpet, he did an amazing job of leaning less into the voice.
Mhm.
It was much more his own sort of less wacky sound. And I think a lot of that is because it wasn't his face. It was a cartoon.
Well, it was that, and he was actually trying to sound different.
Be less wacky.
Yes.
The
'Cause
wacky was what was going on screen, not him.
Yeah. Because there's a difference between how he played Mr. Limpet and how he played the ghost in Mr. Chicken.
Mm-hmm.
You still had wacky on screen. You still had someone that was, at the very beginning, someone supposed to be a very fearful, very cowardly character. But because the character arcs were different in each, he got to use his voice differently in each.
Yes. So I'm just saying, Amazing Mr. Limpet. We're talking about Are We Fish? I mean, that leads to a yes.
The Limpet from Flatbush.
You can actually identify the radius and ulna of these fish. You could see metatarsals, you could see some digits. And this isn't just like, oh, that looks familiar. We actually have direct fossil evidence of these bones moving from lobe-finned fishes through time into terrestrial fish-like things like Tiktaalik that were pushing themselves around on the ground. These are animals that were definitely spending some amount of their lives outside of the water. Now, interestingly, ray-finned fish also have made some headway into getting onto land, but not particularly successfully. Mudskippers are perhaps my third favorite fish. They are not lobe-finned, but they can get around on land. They are ray-finned fish, which, along with the lobe-finned fish, is the other kind of bony fish. Mudskippers do actually prop themselves up on their little ray fins, and they push themselves around with their little tails, but lacking robust bones in their fins, they never really ventured much farther from the water. They did, however, evolve some very familiar tricks for staying out of the water.
Except for Muddy. Muddy Mudskipper went all the way to Hollywood. Yep.
Okay.
For a long time, but you'll have to wait until the eyes section for that. Right now, we are talking about limbs. These fleshy fins with big bones were vital for getting on land, but they appeared to have been a drawback since there are now only 3 lineages of lobe-finned fish: the coelacanths, the lungfish, and a fairly successful lineage of all land vertebrates, the tetrapods, or as I like to call them, landfish. You, me, eagles, dinosaurs, land fish. This is where the fish don't exist science fact came from. If you try to create one taxonomic group that includes all of the fish, you necessarily have to include all of the terrestrial vertebrates. Coelacanths now live quite deep. They go nowhere near the land, but they evolved from fish that spent some of their time on land, which is why they evolved those bony fins, both in the front and the back. Limbs were very important. I guess you know why, but because of gravity, which is a terror. And fish in the water don't have to worry about gravity because of buoyancy. They can just get as big as they want, which is very nice for them. So, a secret. We're talking about fish moving onto the land in this video, but a lot of what we're actually talking about is neofunctionalization. This is where some old structure or protein or gene in an organism is adapted for a new function. I have just said the word neofunctionalization too many times, and now I feel like I need to figure out what the root of that word is, because I would think it would be function, but shun makes me think that the root is funk, so now I need to look that up.
Fun fact incoming.
Up from the nominative Latin functio, performance on execution, noun of action form funked. Funked! Past participle stem of fungi, not related, by the way, to the fungus. From the Proto-Indo-European bung, to be of use or be used. And curiosity satisfied. Back to the video. Neofunctionalizing the lobed fins into legs was very hard. The bones had to get thick, lots of muscle attachments needed to evolve. It had to happen on both the front fins and the back, but all of this kind of makes sense. You can see the bones and what they turned into. Now let me hit you with a harder one, eyes. So eyes, very useful. And it is amazing that we have a literal evolved lens in our eyes. And look, since we're talking about neofunctionalization, the genes that coded for the proteins that neofunctionalized into the vertebrate eye lens are descended from genes that coded for proteins called alpha crystallins. Did alpha crystallins initially evolve to become these transparent eye lens proteins? No. The eye lens proteins neofunctionalized from proteins that help other proteins not come unraveled when they get put under stress from heat or UV light. So they're basically like heat stress protection proteins, which has nothing to do with eye lenses. We still have these in our bodies now, but if you stack...
I mean, yeah, it feels like it's word salad. It does. But it actually has meaning. I mean, it... Pardon me.
There is meaning.
Hmm?
There is meaning, but unlike most word salads, there is meaning, but the problem is that he is delivering it like he's using a lettuce cannon.
Yeah. It's...
A salad shooter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh... Yeah, it's hard to parse through exactly what exactly he's saying. And he's blowing through a lot of information very quickly.
Keeping in mind, he stated that he wanted to. He thought about writing a book about this, but he's already writing a book. So
Right.
what we're getting is the speed reading of the book he wants to write.
Basically.
How long is his video?
This is 20 and a half minutes, and we're 6.5 minutes in.
All right. So he's going to try to write his entire book verbally in 20 minutes.
And I think he does it.
So, yeah, word salad.
Yeah. Now, he does have, there's a lot of information real quick. And I think, that is, oh, I know where I'm going with that. Okay, I think that a part of that is, he knows that, and he knows he's not covering everything. And he cites sources down here.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the sort of the word salad, what we see as word salad, is because he's summarizing a lot of stuff very quickly. Although, what he's talking about right now is that there are these proteins that protect cells that evolved into being our lenses for our eyelids, to account for the difference in refractive index in air and water. Because our eyes weren't originally designed to work in air. We still have fish eyes, essentially. But the method of holding the water in our eye and then adjusting for the change in refractive index comes from these proteins that are designed for cell protection.
Okay.
It turns out they're transparent, and so they got neo-functionalized into lens proteins. But more important for this story, they did that in such a way that bent light basically the same amount as water. So when light went from water into the eye, that light kept going basically straight. But air is a whole new optical game. It bends light less than water, and fish eyes evolved to see in water. Fish eyes can't see out of the water just like we can't see in the water. The fact that your vision gets blurry in water is not because it's like putting pressure on your eyes or something. It's actually because the light bends when it moves from the water into your eye, and it bends in a way that your eyes are not set up for. So to fix the fact that fish couldn't see well on land, early land vertebrates had to rework the physics of their eyeballs. And it turns out that easier than changing the refractive index of the lens was curving the cornea. So our lenses actually are still evolved to see in water, but the shape of the eye has changed to compensate for that. We also developed muscles that squeeze and shape the lens. Fish eyes actually focus by moving the entire lens forward and backward, like a camera lens, while landfish, like us, squeeze and stretch the lens with tiny muscles. We basically had to reinvent autofocus. Also, fun bonus fact, air dries things out, but your eyes need to be wet, so now you need eyelids and tear glands and drainage systems for your eyeballs. And pigmentation to protect your retinas from solar radiation. You know, just a whole new category of problems. So yeah, fins into legs was hard, but turning underwater cameras into air-adapted, self-lubricating, solar-shielded, shape-shifting binoculars, in my opinion, harder. Also, you know who else independently evolved eyelid-like things? Mud skippers, which is, I think, why I like them so much. They just look a little more like interesting and alive when they can close their eyes. But of course they did this in a totally different way that neo-functionalized different parts of their body. Mud skipper eyes blink by pulling the eye down into the body and having a flap of skin that automatically covers them when that happens. So there's way more here, and I would really love to talk about it, but this is a YouTube video and not a book, and as much as I would love to write this book, I don't think it would be particularly easy to get people to buy it. So I'm not going to do hearing, or eggs, or sex, or heat, or protection from UV radiation, all of which are definitely interesting. And the last one's going to be lungs. We're going to get to lungs, and it's going to be interesting, and you're going to love it. But the next one is actually, I think, both the most interesting and the most difficult of all of the evolutions that had to happen for us to take on the land.
And I don't know, perhaps people won't want a book, but maybe they will want a shirt. So I didn't actually talk about this when I was recording the video, which is the kind of mistake I would make, but I commissioned an artist to make a shirt featuring a bunch of fish going about their daily business, being like doctors and vacationers and crossing guards and business people. But I didn't record that during the video, so here I am recording this right before I upload from my brother's guest room. But only for the next 2 weeks. After years of owning a merch company, I know how to do this. You can order the shirt for 2 weeks. At the end of those 2 weeks, we close orders and then we print that exact amount. That way we don't print too few and we don't print too many and there's no waste. However, this does mean that it will not be available after the pre-order window is over. Okay, and now you know that, it's time to go back and explain these words.
This is the Dell AI PC, built for AI. It was designed to
These
optimize
words,
your battery
Dell
life.
AI.
and also the part of this story that I am most excited about.
Harder than
What does everybody think the hardest evolutionary step was? Or that he thinks the hardest evolutionary step was for us to get to land?
Digestion.
Okay. How'd you figure?
Stab in the dark, just random. Yes, I doubt it's the one, but that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. That's a fair that's fair reasoning. I appreciate the fair reasoning. Cat?
I'm gonna go with redoing the musculature so that you can balance on land and still breathe and still move, because being able to balance is really, really hard. And if you've watched a human try to learn to walk, and then you've watched, say, a duck try to learn to walk, it is significantly different.
So you're going with balance. Just because
I'm
we'll go
going with
balance in general.
Yeah, balance in general, but balance and maybe how the muscles had to change to allow for that balance
Okay.
and other things to happen.
All right. I at this point in the video was stuck without a guess because he'd already covered my guess, and that was eyes.
Okay.
Those are both I can see why you have both of those guesses.
than seeing or breathing or defying gravity, land is dry. It is so dry. And life, as everyone knows, is wet. The fundamental solvent of all living chemistry starts evaporating the moment you step out of the water. And life needs it. Every cell in your body is basically a squishy little aquarium full of the ocean we originally evolved in. But if there's water on one side and air on the other, the natural equilibrium is going to push toward the same amount of water inside and outside, and that means instant death on land. You don't just need to drink water, you have to hold on to it constantly. As land fish moved away from the water, their entire existence became a game of minimizing leaks and evaporation. This is a massive...
But fat is water storage.
But fat is
sea creatures have fat.
Right.
But he just said evaporation, which means changing functionally how the skin works so that it does not evaporate all of the water.
Right. And there's a specific part of, especially our exoderm, our very last layer of skin. And I was completely unaware of this part of the skin. Didn't even begin to realize that it's a part of our skin, especially our exoderm. Specifically our exoderm. I had no idea.
We're not talking about the bacteria here, are we?
No.
Okay.
Any more guesses?
Well, I mean, if you didn't know, then it couldn't be the hair, because we actually have hair, and everybody knows this.
Well, yes. Everyone knows this. I didn't realize something specific, though. It's not.
But the fish scale turned into the teeny tiny hairs on your arm?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
They didn't. They're not made out of the same stuff.
I mean, keratin.
Remember, evolution doesn't build new things from scratch, it remodels. Your ancestors weren't blank slates crawling out onto the beach. They were fish, covered in scale and skin, designed to let water flow through it, gasping in an atmosphere that evaporated their bodies one molecule at a time. Life couldn't happen without water, so our ancestors had to somehow carry the ocean with them out of the water and onto the land. As the shirt says, we never left the water. So how do you do that? Well, if you need to carry the ocean out of the water with you, you have to make your skin waterproof. You have to build yourself into a water balloon, and nothing in the biochemical arsenal of fish was up to this task. But there is a protein-based structure that all land vertebrates have. All of us. Frogs, birds, snakes, people, and no fish have it. This is, by my count, actually the most important evolutionary adaptation that allowed fish to take over the land. It is the adaptation that made it possible for us to carry the ocean out of the ocean. Keratinized skin. This is keratin, a tough, fibrous protein stuffed into the...
Specifically keratinized skin, not keratin. And I don't think scales are made out of keratin in the same way that keratinized skin is.
The outermost layer of skin where the cells are already dead and sealed shut. It, along with collagen and some other structures, forms a flexible armor against evaporation. It's waterproof-ish, microbe-resistant, flexible, and surprisingly expendable. And when I found out about this, I assumed that keratin would have evolved from some other structural protein, like collagen. But collagen could not do this on its own. It's too squishy, it's too porous, it's not strong enough. Apparently, there was no path to neo-functionalize collagen into something as strong as keratin. But fish also have bone, but that is too stiff, and if you just make bone plates, the spaces between the plates would lose too much water. We needed something that was flexible and stretchy, and that was tough and waterproof. We had to invent an entirely new structural system seemingly from scratch, and this was a huge mystery for a while. Collagen and keratin are just too different to be coded for by related genes. So we knew that it wasn't that. What we found blew my mind.
What about the
Fish
invertebrates?
actually do kind of have
Good
keratin,
question.
but it has a very specific purpose that has nothing to do with the skin and hair and nails that we use it for. Fish scales are not made out of keratin, but there is keratin in their bodies somewhere. Their cells have it in long strands that build the internal structure of their cells. It's part of the stuff that gives cells their shape and their mechanical strength. Our cells have this cell skeleton keratin inside of them too doing this. These keratins are a vital part of cellular structure. But when fish needed to take over the land, a weird new function evolved. Fish whose skin cells had more keratin in the cell could carry more water around, evaporating less. Eventually, that evolved into an even more structural function, where the cells would fill almost entirely with keratin and then release all of their water into the body, sticking together along with some collagen-binding proteins to form this tough, thick, but still flexible skin. Keratinized skin is, in my opinion, the most important adaptation that allowed fish to conquer land. Evolution took the initial cellular scaffolding and started plastering it onto the surface of the organism. That's neofunctionalization again. Your inner support beams repurposed into outer armor. I love this so much. And once keratin started being used in this way, evolution just went nuts with it. Scales, claws, beaks, feathers, horns, hair, foot pads, little toe beans. If it's solid and it came out of the skin, it's probably keratin. And the best part, even
But
frogs
fish
have it. Just
scales
enough to
aren't
keep them
the
from
same.
leaking, but not enough to stop.
It just occurred to me that means that fish scales and snake scales aren't the same.
Are not the same.
Fish scales aren't keratin. Are they... What are they? Are they, What's that other hard substance in the body that's also slightly flexible? That's not.
Cartilage.
Yeah, are they cartilage?
Um, what it says, what I'm seeing on a very quick search, is that they're made out of a combination of collagen and calcium.
Collagen and calcium.
And form something, or collagen and calcium salts, primarily in the form of hydroxyapatite in layers.
Made by Proto Oreos.
Huh? I'm sorry, what?
It's made by Proto Oreos. Hydrox.
More like aquatic lasagna.
Hydrox. I got there. I got there. That was funny. So, yeah. Fish scales and snake scales aren't the same.
Which honestly would explain why something like, all right, as far as anybody's ever seen, the tuna fish gets freaking huge, right?
Right.
It starts off pretty tiny, it gets freaking huge. As far as anybody's ever seen, they don't shed their skins as they grow. They just freaking grow.
However, reptiles
Snakes.
have to shed their skin because it doesn't grow with them.
Humans have stretchier skin,
But
and we do shed it, but if we grow too fast or we put on a lot of weight
Right.
and then lose that weight, we end up with marks showing where and how fast we stretched.
Oh, God. Tell me about it.
Which are not the same as the stripes that we actually have that you can find under a blue light, black light. That's a whole different issue with human skin.
I'm afraid of what stripes you'd see if you looked at me under a black light. Or if they'd be more like splotches. What?
One thing that has been determined, the stripes and or skin patterns that are not visible to our naked eye are visible to our cats.
Yes.
Ah, well, that's different. It's just a lot of stuff that really shows up under black light that, you know.
Black light or infrared or whatever other alternate vision medium that you use.
Right.
So yes. So we've determined that your cat thinks that you've got stripe, or your cat knows you've got stripes that you don't know, and spots.
I think spots in my case. I think I'm spotted. Just because of all of the times I've seen myself under various different lights, different types of light. I don't have stripes. I have spots.
You suck at hiding.
I am splotchy.
You absolutely suck at hiding. You can't sneak worth a damn.
He's always spotted.
Yeah.
That explains the stealth checks.
You know, ow. The truth hurts.
So yeah.
All right.
Okay. This is an interesting discussion to go down.
Exchange through the skin. Amphibians usually don't have lungs or skin good enough to handle land on its own. They make it work with a thin, leaky compromise that they periodically shed and consume. That's not really related to anything in this episode, but it's a good fact because, life sometimes means recycling your own raincoat by putting it inside of you and turning it into fuel. Now, I need you to know that this is not an exhaustive list. There are a bunch of things that I know and I'm not telling you, and also I'm sure stuff that I don't know about this transition and the physical, genetic, and biochemical leaps required, but this video is already getting quite long. But I feel like it would be a real problem if I did not bring up lungs. But the thing I didn't realize about lungs until I started researching this is that they didn't initially evolve to help with the transition to land. Lungs evolved as early as 420 million years ago in the ancestor of all bony fish. This blew my mind, but this makes a ton of sense. It takes time for oxygen to diffuse into water. There's way more oxygen in the air than there is in the water, and sometimes, especially in muddy, shallow areas, all the oxygen in the water can get used up. If you're a fish living in that muck, having a little air sac that lets you gulp atmospheric oxygen is a massive survival advantage. But you can still ask, what structure was neofunctionalized to form the lungs? And it's just the gut. It's the digestive system. Crazy thing, this actually works a little bit for people right now. In certain very strange circumstances when ventilating the lungs isn't possible, scientists have investigated whether filling the rectum with oxygen could...
Yeah.
I was trying to pause before he said it and ask, what end do you think they're filling with air?
Except for we actually covered a medical procedure early in the scripted series. There was someone talking about medical procedures, and they talked about how one of the things that they were doing if they had to save you and they couldn't get to your lungs was to do that.
Sounds like the kind of thing we'd have covered.
They
Which
quite literally pump your ass full of air.
do you remember the article we covered about CRISPR technology and how it was making progress on curing certain diseases?
Vaguely. We've covered a lot of stuff.
Oh yes, that's the point of us.
Right?
We do political satire a lot, but we also are quite willing to jump off and go down any rabbit hole that looks entertaining or mildly ambiguous.
We are. And that's really where we started. The original idea of the show was just having fun with stuff going on in the world at the moment.
Yeah.
Finding funny headlines.
Article that came out, I want to say yesterday, the CRISPR technology has actually progressed, and they have gotten to the point where they think that they have figured out how to not just treat, but actually eradicate AIDS.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're using that as the next springboard. If we can actually make this happen, then we can take that kind of structure for dealing with this kind of thing, and there are other things that we can start tackling and removing.
So where does this get to breathing through your ass?
If I remember correctly, it was one of the...
politicians are less evolved.
That's not where I was going, but I will take that one. That works just fine.
They don't just breathe through there. They've got vocal cords down there.
So would that make them de-evolved, as in they're all returning to their point of origin?
I don't think it's the point of origin. Remember, he said that lungs developed off the digestive tract, not off the stomach.
True.
Not further down the digestive tract, not the intestines.
All right. Maybe evolved is the wrong thing. Maybe
Yeah.
de-age, since there is a point during gestation where effectively
Yeah, we're just a tube with a hole. Both ends are the same thing.
no, because one end is connected and things come in, and the other end is purely the rectum.
Even at that size?
Yep.
Fair enough. Rectum? Damn near killed him!
Help keep a patient alive. Just
This is Tiny Cat's Lightweight. It's half the weight of regular litter, but it has all the same performance. It's so
oxygenating some wet internal tissue that has lots of blood vessels can result in some gas exchange that could help keep a person alive. But our ancestors didn't do this through the rear end, they did this through the mouth and into the gut, which is why to this day we breathe and eat out of the same hole, even though this does sometimes cause problems. Even with basically zero change, gulping some air into the gut would result in some small amount of extra oxygen in a fish's blood. This is why I say this wasn't actually that big of a deal. It's evolutionarily very obvious, and a small increase in function leads to a large survival advantage, so you would expect to see it, which is why it happened so early and so many times, which we will get to in a moment. That air sac off the digestive system is the proto-lung, just pouches branching off the gut with enough blood vessels to absorb oxygen from the air. But the weirdest thing, possibly in this whole video, is that obviously lots of fishes don't need lungs, but it turns out to be super useful to have a pouch of air inside of them for controlling their buoyancy, which is why they have swim bladders. And if you had asked me a couple of months ago, I would have definitely said, well, lungs must be a neo-functionalized swim bladder. Swim bladders are things that water fish have, and lungs are things that land fish have. And water fish came first, so swim bladders must have come first. But no, y'all, swim bladders are neo-functionalized lungs. I don't know if this is as cool to you as it is to me, but I literally ran to my wife when I found out about this. But then, fish that had lost their lungs,
He has a
sometimes
very
turning them into
understanding
swim bladders,
wife.
occasionally would need lungs again, which is why air breathing in fish has evolved like dozens of times. There are many different ways that they do it. Catfish have a gut pouch that isn't related to the original lungs. Mud skippers can trap air in their gill areas and have special muscles that stop their gills from collapsing in air. Betta fish have a special high surface area pouch that branches off from the interior of the gill that fills with air. But the lungs that we breathe into are based on the same lung structure that evolved in the original bony fish more than 400 million years ago. Lungs were around for so long before vertebrates got on land that even though I think most people would consider them the #1 thing fish would need, I'd actually put it pretty much last on the list. Because it wasn't just evolutionarily inevitable. There have been fish with lungs for as long as there have been fish with bones. Oh, also, this is why sharks don't have swim bladders, because swim bladders evolved from lungs, and lungs evolved in bony fish, and sharks aren't bony fish, and only fish with lungy ancestors have swim bladders today. The reason I got obsessed with this is that there's something really beautiful behind this quirky little science fact that either people are fish or fish don't exist. Like, if you're in science-y spaces, fish don't exist is one of the best fun little science facts. It's just 3 words long and it sounds really fake, but it turns out that it's basically true. And there are ways in which this fact isn't even true. Like, if you instead of looking at ancestry, you look at physiology or lifestyle, fish are just aquatic vertebrates. Though people are generally pretty big sticklers about whales not being fish. So like, if whales aren't fish, then fish don't exist. That's my opinion. You could complexify the physiological definition of fish and say that they can't breathe air, but that doesn't work because there's lots of air-breathing fish. I say, and I'm sorry for getting into this, I could do a whole video on it. It doesn't really belong in this conversation. I think whales are definitely fish. They're either fish because we're using a physiological definition, in which case whales are aquatic vertebrates, or they're fish because we're using a taxonomic definition that's based on ancestry, and they, like us, are evolved from fish. And so I'm comfortable saying that if whales aren't fish, then yeah, fish don't exist. But that's not my point. That's not the thing that's like filling me with this excitement of knowledge right now. My point is that there's this cute little fact that because we're more closely related to bass than bass are to sharks, then the reality is that humans and dinosaurs and frogs and eagles are all just super weird fish covered in keratin and sucking air into their lungs. But there's something really big there, that every one of those species and every one of us originated in the ocean. And we can see that not just in the salty water we lock inside of our bodies to carry around our entire lives, but also in our physiology, in our eye lens that has the wrong refractive index, in our lungs that branch off from our digestive system, and in our skin, built out of a protein that originally evolved not to hold together a body, but to hold together a cell. If you see this whole story the way it really is, you realize that fish don't exist isn't the fact. The fact is, you are a fish, and you never really left the water. You carry the ocean with you everywhere you go, physically in your cells, but also ancestrally in your genes and your physiology. I am obsessed with this, and I hope that you are too. We never left the water. Also, if you have questions about any of this, or corrections, or things you'd like to argue with me about, please leave them in the comment. I'll make a follow-up video. And also, because this was such an information-dense episode, I do actually have references for this one. That's all in the description.
Again, the shirt designed by Matthias Ball is available for the next 2 weeks. You order it during the pre-order window. We close it down. We have all the orders. We know exactly how many we have to ship, and there's no waste. It looks really good, and it is cozy, and it tells this story that I have become so obsessed with. And I really do honestly love that I get to commission artists to make things that I want there to be in the world. So check it out. There is, of course, a link in the description.
So, that was the video. Are we fish, or do fish not exist? Are whales fish? Or do fish not exist? If we're going to define fish, how do we define fish?
I'm sorry. Left my lab coat at home. I'm not qualified.
I have questions on that statement, starting with O. Then where are you sitting currently?
Oh, understand what I mean.
I understand what you mean. But since I am the only one of the group actually not currently at home, I get to nitpick.
I understand that I left myself open for that one.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, no. Too late.
Yeah, really.
Look, I can see Trevor. And you are far less likely to log in from an unidentified location by a phone than I am.
I mean, the likelihood that you would be anywhere but home is very low. The probability wave definitely peaks at you being at home.
They're focusing on the wrong thing here.
I disagree.
We're not. We're focusing on the thing that we can actually talk about knowledgeably.
Okay, my lab coat is at the cleaners. Therefore,
Okay.
I'm unqualified to make such assumptions.
Okay, fine. Take all the fun out of it.
I do, you know, you came out pretty solidly in the we aren't fish category at the beginning
Yes,
of this.
you're not fish.
So, then, are whales fish?
Nope.
then do fish exist?
Yes.
What are fish?
Well, they are not mammals, which we and whales are.
Tasty.
Where is the definitional distinction between mammal and fish?
Well, a fish does not nurse its young, neither does it give live birth.
Okay.
My thing would be
Then-
along lines of
Are snakes fish? Are birds fish?
no.
Why?
I cannot tell you their distinguishing parameters to put them into the category of snake or fish. That would exclude one or the other. I am familiar with the distinguishing parameters for mammals. After that, I stopped paying attention back in 5th grade.
My argument would be we are not fish. Fish do exist, but we are not fish because at a certain point when we change, we stop being that thing. Our most recent ancestor on the chain would be primates. We are closer in line to the primate than we are to the fish if you go through the chain of how things have grown and evolved and changed.
We are still primates. We are a type of primate. I think where my argument would go is that we are still a type of the taxonomical group above us. The thing we descended from. We're a type of primate. Primates are a type of... I don't remember what they called the thing that primates evolved from.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then the common mammal ancestry, and then from mammal, whatever step is between that and fish, and then we are a type of fish that has evolved out of water. I think if we're going a taxonomical route, if we're going evolutionarily, then that means that we are not a primate anymore. We are something evolved past that. Unless we are still just a primate, and there's some evolutionary step between the primate and whatever came, whatever that ground sloth was that came before primate. If we're still in that range. But I argue then I ask then, not argue, I ask then, what is the defining factor? And I think I even have an answer for myself there. And I think it's when the DNA is so far removed that mating is no longer viable.
That would be a fair thing, which would also fit in with what I said about once you've changed at a certain point, you are no longer that thing.
Which means the egg came first.
Change happened somewhere.
Right? The egg came first.
So it was the first with a cigarette?
What?
So it was the first with a cigarette?
As soon as I said what, I knew what I was asking.
Mm-hmm.
I argue for a more sort of definitional based
The thing with the definition based is that
I think
from
whales
when
are
we were
fish.
kids to now, they've been changed.
Well, no, I think whales are fish. And I don't think it's water vertebrates. I think it's water creatures.
Well, yes, they're definitely a water
is
creature.
Just stuff that lives underwater primarily. And the stuff that, I think mud skippers count as amphibians. Although true amphibians change. They go through a fish stage and then a not fish stage. And so true
they
amphibians...
go through fish and in between, and then they reach their final form.
Right. So true amphibians...
Are Pokemon.
Are both.
The Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z characters.
Yeah. Or Digimon. Potentially Digimon.
But no, I think that they qualify as both fish and not fish. I think that's where I draw the line. Is the definition is stuff that lives primarily underwater. I think clams count as fish. I think fish, anything, I think fish is anything that I could look at and go, that could be seafood. But also stuff that I would go, nah, I wouldn't eat that.
Honestly,
because I am a carnivore, I have to reduce everything down to would I eat it? How do I define it in terms of would I eat it?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, fish are tasty.
Right?
Shellfish are tasty. It's still a fish.
Yeah,
it's a shell.
But jellyfish not so much. Actually, I have no idea. I would never eat one. I would never eat one. After having had lutefisk, I will never eat jellyfish.
Okay.
If the texture is even remotely similar, that's a nah.
Entirely reasonable.
So not fully settled Jello.
More than, except also slightly more than fully settled Jello. Like there was.
That's an oobleck.
Kinda.
Have we gone back to talking about why wizards are squishy?
In any case, I think we're gonna say that, my definitional line is stuff that lives underwater. So, how does that sit with with y'all.
You have to be specific. If you're going with that, then you have to be specific with your definition of underwater.
Living primarily below the surface of water.
So a submariner is a fish.
I mean, they do spend a great deal of time in a sub underwater. My thing would be
By that definition,
noting,
yeah.
and we have circled back to the incredible Mr. Limpet. No.
Seals, I think, turtles end up being fish that way. A lot of turtles are fish. Hippopotami can be fish.
How about something whose respiratory system requires to be underwater?
Mud skippers.
They can effectively hold their breath.
They've developed muscles to keep their gills from collapsing. They can gulp air in. Okay.
And would you classify them as a fish or an amphibian? Since they can do both.
Amphibian, like I said before. I'm with you though. I'm with you on this.
I'm more along the line of,
because if we're going with the respiratory system definition, then whales and dolphins and manatees are not fish.
Right, because they have to surface to breathe. They breathe air, specifically.
if they are living on underwater and all of their main functions are happening underwater, they can classify more as a fish. But so if they have to breathe land air to keep going, not a fish. If they have to come up on land in order to reproduce, like turtles, not a fish. If there's a transitory stage where they have to be on land at some point,
like
not a fish.
Like a submariner.
Right.
Although a submariner doesn't technically have to be on land at some point for any transitional period. The only thing that
true, but when they were hatched, they had to be on land to hatch appropriately, and they had to breathe air for.
Currently, they have to breathe air. That's the one thing that really makes the difference. Now, you could have a generational sub.
You could.
Like, thought experimentally wise, it falls apart. It would fall apart if they didn't also have to breathe air. Yes. And it's not surface air. They can make air that they can breathe, but it is air. It is...
Okay, we're going into Sequest territory.
Yes, we are.
We are, but again, this is, we're working on definitions, and definitions, thought experiments are part of working on definitions.
We really should have done this project yesterday.
Why?
Because then we could have been speaking like British farmers.
Why?
I'm waiting for people to catch on.
I am not catching on.
This is...
It was Talk Like a Pirate Day. Arr.
Oh. Okay.
I missed that. I did. I was
Talking with British farmers.
right because we decided that pirates talk like British farmers. We figured out we had a
Why pirates?
yeah.
We didn't decide. We just figured out why. We found out why they do.
Right. That's right. Well, all right. I am with you on the definitional. I'm with you here on the definitional of
The reason why the
main,
definitional taxonomy requires multiple definitions is because not everything fits neatly into one category.
yes.
So they have to meet they have to meet a majority of definitions for one category. So kind of like how the platypus is the platypus, and it's a mammal.
But it lays eggs.
Right. It has a bill.
And webbed feet. And spurs.
Well, okay, so the webbed feet and spurs, there are mammals that have webbed
But
feet.
spurs secrete poison.
That's
there are lots of mammals that have bills. They're called U.S. citizens. They got to pay their bills.
All right, fine.
Ow. I walked into that.
So yeah. I mean, look, figuring out where to put something based on the definition has always been both tricky and divisive.
Yes. And it really, on some level, kind of doesn't matter. I mean, some level it does. There's a very real level in how we interact with the world where we need to know what something is.
Yes.
But there's also another level where those labels start getting muddy and useless. And you need to either get much more specific or much less specific. What were you going to say? Well,
most useless label, tree.
Tree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most trees are not at all related.
No, they aren't. And in fact, aspens aren't aspens. They are aspen. What is a mushroom?
Yeah, it's a tree that's a mushroom, but nobody wants to recognize it because that just breaks their brain a bit too much.
It's a fun guy.
I'm sorry, you're spitting facts that I'm not connecting.
Aspens are they are not a singular
aspen. Yeah.
So they're a communal organism.
Yes.
Okay. That's fairly common amongst pine trees.
Well, they're also not exactly communal organism. They are singular. A grove is a singular organism.
They're linked together like mushrooms would be.
Right. They're not linked together like other trees are. They're linked together like mushrooms. Um,
So the multiple stalks are not grown from separate seeds; they're grown from roots breaking the surface and starting a new one.
much like runner grasses, I think. When I learned this, I compared it to runner grasses, like that.
And that stuff's going to be hard to get with a lawnmower.
No. No, 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 no.
You got to chase it down.
No. No.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Nah, I'm not sure that that's an accurate use of that word.
What? Sorry?
Because we know you're not really.
I
Especially-
apologize for inflicting that stupidity on you. It was humorous
Uh-huh.
and enjoyable, but it was not necessary, so therefore I'm apologizing.
Oh, I disagree. I think it was incredibly necessary. I think it
Yeah.
reminds us about the seriousness of this part of our conversation.
Mm.
I do want to say, though, I do want to get to something kind of serious about this, about how these, like I was saying, when these definitions break down, you need to take things on a case-by-case basis. That you can't apply broad thinking to specific situations. It can give you a framework within which to start thinking about something, start talking about something, but you can't apply broad thinking all the way down to the specific case. Yeah, that's... I feel like I'm kind of dancing around something here, you know? I feel like a lot of people are applying very broad thinking to a lot of the stories that are in the news right now. Specifically, the story about Charlie Kirk, about his... I'm gonna say murder. I'm gonna call it murder. I'm not going with assassination. Yeah, if it was actually politically motivated, if I really thought it was actually politically motivated, I'd call it assassination.
Well, the thing is, I think it was politically motivated, just not necessarily the direct oppositional political, as most people would think.
That's fair.
By the way, murder is fair. Murder is entirely accurate.
I mean, yes, assassination is a type of murder. Aha! However,
Exactly.
I don't think that this was... I think that this was...
So you're certain that this was a collection of crows?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I think that this didn't have political overtones. Or political undertones, for that matter. I think I'm holding out my ultimate decision there. I don't want to start a conspiracy theory and go, I think that because of, even though I've said, even though I asked the question, well, it is awfully funny that this happened to Charlie Kirk right when he started to, start splitting from the president over something, you know.
I would argue that anytime a person who has been very outspoken in favor of one political party or another, or one religious ideal or another, is murdered, it has political undertones, even if they are unintentional.
There you go. That's fair. I think the intentionality matters. In this case, I think that because the intentionality wasn't to make a political statement. I think that, as far as I can tell, I think the intentionality was to make an IRL crap post. This was not politically or, really socially consciously. It was just murder.
Yes.
So you are trying to avoid espousing or creating a conspiracy theory. Yeah. I will not do such a thing. I will gladly
lay it on us, brother. Although I will say, before you do that, I will say that we are not covered for litigation. We have no we have no business insurance litigation coverage.
My conspiracy theory is the reason you are trying to avoid creating conspiracy theory is because you know something.
That is brilliant. Tell you what I do know. Not much. I do know that it is going to be time for us to sign off soon. Or getting towards the end of our show.
Before we sign off, can we give a virtual pat on the back to our friends and co-protesters in England for their wonderful work this week?
Oh, yes. The Epstein video up on the castle walls.
The banner on the lawn.
That was primo stuff, guys. Thank you for representing.
The protest march. The protest march that went down whatever the road was. I forget now what the road was, but the thoroughfare was packed so densely and so far that it looked like someone like a group of people had shut down and were blocking all of the Brooklyn Bridge and then some.
I'm just saying, man. Thank you guys for representing. And yeah, you said the baby
ball.
Balloon.
Yeah. that was also priceless, man. Priceless.
Oh. Did you by any chance hear one of the big chants that they had going on?
I might have, but I don't remember it.
They rhymed Trump with a certain British C word that we cannot say on air without getting in trouble here.
Ah. Well played. Well played.
It was very catchy, and if the American view on that particular word wasn't such, and then I would wholeheartedly write it down and send it to Charlottesville Indivisible for their next No Kings protest.
Fair enough.
Which is coming up. That's going to be in October.
In October.
October 18th.
October 18th is the next Indivisible No Kings protest.
Yep.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Hopefully we can cover it.
Hopefully.
Any other last thoughts before we get out of here?
No. My cat has his turn with the brain cell now.
What was that?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Just the computer terminology of 1 + 1 = 2 or equals 3 for extremely large values of 1.
Use of 1. I appreciate that. And with that, I think we will leave you. 1 + 1 = 2 or 3 for extremely large values of 1. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Peanut Gallery. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Chris into 386. Thank you, all you lurkers. Now is the time on the show when I say stick around for the raid. And then I say, as they say around here, 2 up, 2 down. VA, double deuces. We're out, y'all. Where is that? Oh, there it is.